Fuck. And I mean this in the strongest way possible. Fuck the pen goblins. You know, those little monsters that hide inside your pens? And then they're like usually right around here, I imagine. You know, you'll go to write something down, and then all of a sudden there's nothing going on the page. Nothing going on the page. You go to the corner, you do the little circles. Oh, there it is. You go back to the same spot. Nothing. You go back. The circles work fine. They push a little button inside here, turns off the ink. You go back to where you're trying to write. It goes off again. How can this actually be a thing without using goblins to explain it? There's no physics that could just... There's no way the pen could magically understand that, oh, I'm on the margins now. I'm going to fuck with twos. No, I don't know. I don't get it, and it pisses me off.
Is anybody else noticing Twos combed his hair this week and is wearing a button-up shirt? Like, Twos is worried about the pens. I'm going, something's off here. Something's off. You know, he teases me about always wearing a backwards hat. He's got no hat on this week. His hair is done. He almost looks clean-shaven. He's got a button-up shirt on. What is happening in Two's life? That you've something's happened. No?
What, you guys don't just dress like this every day?
Well, normally I do, but I
dress like this every week. What are you talking about?
Ever done this? I
dress like this every week.
No, you do not. No, you do not. Welcome to Mashup 129, where
shout out to Mrs. Twos, who decided that I
needed to clean you up.
Yeah. She's like, you know, you could just not look like a schlub on an episode every once in a while. And I'm like, all right, okay, fine. Yeah.
We've come to know Twos as a bit of a schlub, haven't we? You know, 129, where Twos is cleaned up for the first time in well over 2 years, I should say. All right, where do we want to begin? Let's start with Happy Airborne Friday, Jamie Sinclair and the boys. Happy Airborne Friday, military men. It's a weekly reminder that the Coots boys got 6.5 years. So, you know, we're going to keep talking about it because, I mean, that's happening here in our province.
They're not going away. Well, I mean, they've gone away, but
no, that's right.
Yeah, it's still a thing.
I'll pull up this if you know, Christmas is around the corner. I know nobody wants to talk Christmas and snow and everything. I mean, we got Halloween. Are we doing a Halloween episode this year too? We probably should. We probably should dress up. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you mean like right in the mid? Oh, like yeah, where we just put on some costumes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Episode maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see what we can do there, folks. In the meantime, we do have the Mashup SMP Twos. If he'd ever give me a design, I'd have some 222 minutes stuff up there. I got a
vector. I paid somebody like $20 to clean it up and vector it. So
I'm tossing that in the comments right now. If you're interested in anything from that,
bug Twos, because Twos is going in 50 different directions right now. So yeah, if you got any community notes, save them for the end, or do what everybody else does and just throw them in as they think of them. We'll try and keep track of it either way. I want to say shout out to a loyal listener, Jason in Edmonton, my contractor's cousin, who he was just telling him about. Oh yeah, I've been doing this. You know, I did all this work for this guy who's got a podcast. He's like, oh no way. So yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening.
Cool. October 18th. I think that's the biggest news. That's tomorrow night, folks. Okay. BC live election coverage, as Twos would say, election coverage that doesn't suck. Before we get to the comments, I want to finish this Twos, and then you can rattle off all the people who are tuning in. 6 Rock Dairy. That's the parents of the 2 girls who gave us the Trudeau Sucks jingle. That's John and Candace. I'm going to butcher this last name, folks. Remersma? I don't know. I'm sorry. Regardless.
Why didn't you ask?
I did, and they told me, and I still can't read it. You know, it's like, no matter how hard I try.
Hey,
I know.
You know
where's my goblins? Give me the pens back.
It's not the pens. It's not the goblins. It's just maybe I should be the one reading the names of the sponsors. You know, the people we actually try and get the names right.
6 Rock Dairy. 6 Rock Dairy. Okay, 6 Rock Dairy.
You just did that one wrong.
What?
You said
Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. If there's other people that want to get businesses from BC or anywhere for that matter, if they want to hop on, shoot me a text or a comment because we'd love to have a couple more for the BC election coverage.
and
It starts
reach out
7
to me
p.m.
specifically for pronunciation.
Sure,
Continue, please.
sure. 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So if you're out in BC, it'll be 6 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be on Rumble, YouTube, X, Facebook. So people have been asking a lot about where they can find it, and we'll be putting out things here as we get a little closer. But that's where you're going to be able to live stream it tomorrow night. We have a whole list of guests starting to form here. We got Carson Binda from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, Clyde Nichols, aka Clyde Do Something, Chase Barber from Medicine Motors, Alex Zoltan. He's never graced the podcast yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
We've talked about his stuff a few times.
Yes, we have. He's an ex-commentator from Surrey. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but he's going to be hopping on. Wyatt Claypool, senior correspondent, National Telegraph. Anita Krishna, that's the former Global News producer. She's going to be hopping on, and there will be a few more, I think, sliding in there. So tomorrow night, BC live election coverage. That should be a lot of fun. Six Rock Dairy stepping up to support that. If you're a business out there that wants to hop on, let us know. And it's going to be starting tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Twos, I've been throwing things at you as fast as I can go for tomorrow night. Any other thoughts before we move on?
That's basically it. Kevin's talking about how great my hair is, and Joe Mama says I look fresh.
You do look fresh. You know, there's very few times, like, I don't really think Twos looks better than me, but today he at least
Are you
cleaned up.
serious?
He's at least cleaned up, folks, and he's trying.
Serious?
He's trying. Hey?
Like anytime we're both on skates. Anytime we're both on skates, for example. Oh, yeah, by the way, how did you like that game the other day?
You go 4-0, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel kind of good. Except everybody's like, it's the Calgary Flames, you're 4-0. Nobody expects anything else out of you. Like,
Minnesota's goalie has more goals than Connor McDavid right now.
He scored last night. He tucked one home.
So now they're tied. That's not really the win you think it is, Sean.
Mashup 129. All right, folks, let's get into it, shall we? Rats fleeing the sinking ship of the week. Federal cabinet ministers, Philomena Tassi, Carla Qualtrough, and Dan Vandal announced Thursday they will not run for re-election. This is amid like a whole bunch of people saying they're not running. Tassi, the minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, Qualtrough, the minister for sport, and Vandal holds the Northern Affairs portfolio. So twos, everybody getting out of the way of this, or trying to at least.
Well, I mean, of course they are. The thing about it is that you're not going to, if it's already a foregone conclusion, any of these people are looking at the polling numbers and saying there is not a hope in hell of getting reelected. Now, the thing about it is that they're required to, I think they get 80% of it back, but still they're going to require, they've got to put money out to run and then be somebody who's defeated. Whereas you could just retire and say, oh yeah, I retired as the undefeated minister of bullshit and everything dumb. Carla Qualtrough, you guys will probably remember, was the minister in charge of trying to make sure that people who lost their jobs because of vaccination status were denied WCB. So yeah, I'm all for these people getting as far away from government as possible. And there's more of them every week. Murray says he's a 2 dressed up as a 9. That's a great comment, Murray. We appreciate it. It's the last one you're allowed to do on the show.
Testify, brother. Do you want to show some of the videos, twos? I know you probably have a couple there that you'd want to bring up.
Well, this one's really good. So let's, you know what? We're gonna present a little bit, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about why everybody in the media space is enraging me. Here is the conservative lawyer.
Am I correct, sir, that Mr. Poilievre has said that the reason he does not wish to receive the security clearance is because he does not want to be constrained in terms of the use he can make of the information that he would receive?
I don't believe that was his argument. I believe his argument was that he wouldn't be able to talk about the information he received.
How is that different than what I just said?
Now, the look on his face right at the end, guys, that's just chef's kiss. Okay. So you've got all these different basically the testimony last week contradicts the testimony this week. Nobody seems to notice that any of that's suspicious. Apparently there is a list now. And so Trudeau is saying, I have a list of everybody who's committing treason right now in Parliament. And Poilievre could read that list if he would sign the non-disclosure and get the security clearance. It's not that he doesn't want the security clearance. It's that the non-disclosure with up to 14 years of imprisonment for breaking it, that's the clincher. It's not that he can't get the security clearance. He's already been a minister, but he's not reading these documents because regardless of however else he may learn about it afterwards, he could go to jail for up to 14 years for talking about it because if it's in these documents that he's reading. Now, nobody in the media sphere is saying, they're all saying, oh, well, why can't Poilievre just read these documents? And nobody's thinking to say, if Trudeau personally knows the names of a bunch of people committing fucking treason, why isn't he saying anything? That's the big thing here. He's literally testifying that he's got receipts and he's got names. Cool. And they're the Conservative Party. And you're like, so this guy is down 20 points in the polls. Every minister's bailing on him. We're going to get to this in a little bit, but it's expected that his caucus is supposed to ask for him to step down next week. And amongst all this stuff, he's got a smoking gun for the opposition party in his pocket, and he's too magnanimous to use it? Bullshit.
I got nothing to add other than every time Trudeau gets up on the stage and starts talking, it's fun to watch through X. If you're not on X, I don't know what you're doing because there's some funny memes, there's some funny things out there. Yep. It's just fantastic.
Steven says, oh, this is where everyone watches. He's on Facebook. It was lonely on YouTube. Okay, but we need more people on YouTube. So even if you're not going to watch it there, just go to the page and subscribe and then come back to watch it wherever else.
And in fairness, we haven't pointed out, if you're watching this morning, you're watching on an X, you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Facebook, Rumble, please share, like, subscribe, all those things. It does help. Tuz and I were talking about this about 2 weeks ago, how a guest didn't want to come on the Mashup because our YouTube numbers were small. And we never talk about YouTube because everybody on my side knows why I'm against YouTube, among other things. But in saying that, wherever you're watching, make sure to share and subscribe and make sure let everybody know around the water cooler about this. We need your help. That's how this show continues to grow.
Okay, yeah. And Steven says, fine, I'll go back. You can stay where you're at. You're good
Stay where you're at. Stay where you're at.
You're just wherever you're comfortable is fine with us.
Green leader may or may not be telling the truth. This is Elizabeth May. She said, I read with alarm the statement released by Mr. Poilievre on October 16th. My message to Justin Trudeau is release the names of all the MPs that have collaborated with foreign interference. She then goes on to say basically what you were saying with release the names. You can face up to 14 years in jail. Now let's harken back. Yes, let's harken back to.
I found myself looking around at colleagues, wondering who could it be? Who would sell out this country?
Before she read it,
I would describe myself before reading the report as good and freaked out.
But she says she came away reassured.
I can say I have no worries about anyone in the House of Commons. There is no list.
That's interesting. For somebody who's saying that we need to release the list. on the official Green Party website saying that the list needs to be released, and yet there
Yes.
is no list.
Something
Also-
doesn't add up here.
Also, did you notice? I'm going to go back here. Watch her crazy eyes when she says that she has no worries about anyone in the House of Commons. A very specific thing to say.
I have no worries about anyone in the House of Commons.
And then just looks off to the side immediately. Yeah. So, A, it's either a bald-faced lie, which is a decent chance, or B, she's very selectively saying anybody in the House of Commons while knowing full well that somebody behind the scenes, or maybe somebody in the Senate, like Yuan Paul Wu, for hypothetical example, is involved. Just call me a conspiracy theorist.
We're one step down away. Liberal MP to have spent the last 10 days. Liberal MP Sean Casey, let's start there, publicly calls for Justin Trudeau to step down. Then there's an article, Liberal MPs who have spent the last 10 days organizing to formally ask Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to step aside from the leadership of the Liberal Party, plan to plead their case directly to him next Wednesday's caucus meeting. Multiple sources familiar with the plan. Stop it. The plan.
You're the one who keeps saying it.
Multiple sources familiar with the plan told CTV News the overarching objective is to be direct with the Prime Minister and keep the discussion private. Some MPs will be designated in
They're
advance
literally talking to the news about it.
based on their comfort level speaking on the issue to reflect the group's sentiment that Trudeau should step aside for the good of the party in the next federal election.
Yep, and this is Sean Casey.
It's that I've been getting loud and clear and more strongly as time goes by, is that it's time for him to go. And I agree.
He said, and I agree. So there you go. That's just the latest person publicly calling for him to step down. And so, yeah, this sucks, man. This is the worst possible outcome. As much as I'm mocking him mercilessly for it, I do not want him to step down. Justin, if you're listening to this from your beanbag chair in your basement, eating Cheezos and hitting the bong while everybody else in Parliament's working, please, for the love of God, we need you in this next election. Tough it out. Tell all these naysayers to just piss right off, and there's no party without you. You've got
Doesn't
this.
that seem like what he's going to do? Like I thought like 6 months ago, he's going to step aside, right? And try and like find a way for the Liberal Party to make a real run at it. But like, we're late October, too. We're under a year. Like
They don't have,
at this
and
point,
that's under a year at the most.
at the most. And so you look at it and you're like, I don't think he's stepping aside. I've been trying to figure out if he is going to step aside. And I just feel like every time more things just light it up, like this guy is a moron. Not that you need much more, folks. He just keeps holding on.
Here's what happens if he steps aside, is that he's going to say, I'm going to step aside in the next 2 weeks, probably, or something like that. And then they're going to have a by-election they're going to have probably something really quick, like a month-long lead up to a new leadership election, right? And then that person is going to need several months to get into it and everything else like that. But as soon as he says he's stepping down, all of the opposition parties are going to say no confidence. And then they're looking at 2 weeks for him to leave, another month. And then if they do a snap election, which is probably what they're going to want to do, a really short window, because the Conservative war chest is huge. And so the smaller the window, the less time you have to spend it. So they're going to try and do the shortest amount possible, which is what Harper did in 2015. So let's see if anybody has consistent thoughts on whether that's a good thing or not, by the way. But anyway, when you put that all together, you're going to have somebody who is literally campaigning as leader while they're also campaigning in an election, almost exactly. Him stepping down, the timeline's too long, and yeah, you're gonna see all the opposition people go no confidence. just to totally wreck it for them. Like basically what happened in 2015 for the Conservatives in Alberta, where in the Wildrose dust up after Danielle Smith crossed the floor, they're like, yeah, we're going to call a snap election a year early. Not because any reason other than they wanted to capitalize on hitting the Wildrose when they were still weak.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to watch. That's
Ryan says Two's all spiffed up for his Timmy's interview. Screw you, dude. I have so many issues with that place. I couldn't possibly ever work there. And Kevin says Two's will run the Liberal campaign. Gladly. I would gladly do that.
Yeah, but then it'd be fun to watch. You don't hate the media enough. Well, I pulled out what I enjoyed out of the article. So it says Alberta's United Conservative Party members will soon debate 35 policy resolutions that include banning transgender people from women's washrooms, prohibiting non-binary gender identifiers on government documents, and ensuring trans medical treatments are not publicly funded. The largest political convention in Canadian history, with at least 5,428 UCP members registered to attend. I mean, that's where the article there, I'm like, actually, I'm not going to read the rest because I'm like, that right there, I'm happy that's out there in the media. People can get upset about that as all they want. Now, you can show the Vigilant Fox and walk through some of the things there, too. I'm like,
no, I'm not done talking about, you've talked about this global article.
Sure.
But you missed everything important. So allow me to elucidate. Here we go. There's a big quote here.
What you liked about it, but you're a moron, and now I'm going to prove why this is the dumbest thing in the world. Twos, with your fancy hairdo, lead us on.
The big quote here in big letters: if passed, they would be some of the most extreme anti-trans and anti-2SLGBTQ, they're missing 50 letters, policies, not only in Canada, but in the world. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the countries in Africa and the Middle East where they'll put you in jail for 20 years, we just covered this, where we gave a guy asylum because he said he was now gay. And if he went back to Kenya, he would go to jail for 20 years. I would say that not buying them a dick removal procedure is less extreme, to use their word, than putting them in jail for 20 years. But maybe that's just me. But here's the thing. They've got this whole article about how they've got all these allies and everybody's against this and all of this other stuff. And here's the big quote from it. Now, if I go find and then paste, they have it embedded in the video. That's the other part where it comes up. Even though the video, if you watch the whole thing, doesn't ever say that again. It's just in the wording of the video. And it says, if passed, here. This is the only part in the article where this quote actually shows up. It's not accredited to anybody. It's just a random fucking quote that's completely incorrect, that's presented as saying that the UCP are just absolutely heinous and evil. And then here's their tweet. Where this is what they said. If passed, they would be some of the most extreme anti blah, 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 not only in Canada, but in the world. Again, this is their tweet. And that quote shows up nowhere in the article or the video attached to it.
I guess where I'm at, Twos, is it just doesn't surprise me. I watch it, I read it, and I'm like, I mean, at this point, you're taking everything they're saying for face value. I don't know how to help you. I don't. This is why we do this thing. This is why Twos gets to rant about it. Because I read it and I go, I don't need to read the rest. I don't need to figure out how they're trying to screw me over all again.
You just need to know that they're not your friend, and here's why.
Sure.
And they're not the friend of truth. Okay, CBS, I don't know. They did another thing where they selectively edited a clip to try and make the Biden administration look good.
Newsflash, everybody. The mainstream news isn't showing you everything. Oh, wow. That's shocking. No, it's not.
I love how they've got side by side, and then this is cool. I'm not going to show the clip, but it's interesting to show that this guy, Speaker of the House, he actually had a camera on him during the interview that wasn't the main camera, so that he would be able to show later on. He was going in there fully expecting to be selectively edited, and this is how he proactively addressed it.
This is the world of
This is where it's at, is that everybody
Yes.
goes into these interviews expecting to
Them to
be
do it.
misrepresented.
Yes. Yes. Goofy news. Okay. Let's start with, and I'm gonna see if I can find it. Here it is. I'm gonna pull this up. Okay, this is the first one. Here's a picture of it. Aquarium star whale shark shocks visitors because it turned out to be a robot.
They said, come to the zoo or the aquarium, whatever. Excuse me. We have a whale shark, which is like the biggest thing that isn't a whale, basically. Like this is a big fish. Come check it out. And then it turns out it's not even actually a whale. It's just a robot.
They hyped it as a much hyped giant shark, and then it was revealed to be a robot. You can imagine people paid and are just ticked.
This is the same country who painted up a bunch of dogs to look like pandas a few months ago. So this is almost we talked about that before too.
So you shouldn't be surprised. I mean, you're like, yeah, well, they're trying. Then you have UK's highest court upholds ruling that makes calling men bald sexual harassment.
Yeah, they compared the amount in this article is great because they made a legal argument for the comparison of amount of hair on a man's head to the size of a woman's breasts.
Yes. Well, folks, that's equality, you know? I
Yeah.
guess we're gonna have it
So yeah, I guess for everybody in the comments this week, if that was me they were talking about, I would look like Pamela Anderson.
the opposite of prohibition. The government department responsible for Canada's diplomatic and consular presence around the world spent at least $3.3 million on alcohol over the past 5 years. You go, that doesn't seem so bad. I'm like, okay, whatever. On average, that's about $51,000 per month on various alcohol libations. The government, here's Franco Terrazzano. The government is wasting our tax dollars faster than we can say bottoms up. Twos.
He's absolutely right. $3.3 million worth of booze. And some of it gets specifically listed where it lists the wineries and everything like that it comes from, which almost makes me wonder, by the way, if you own a vineyard and you donate to the right party, do they say, okay, well, yeah, we'll make sure we buy your booze?
Mm. I was wondering,
right?
I wonder if any of these folks showed up on P. Diddy's party list or any of that sort.
They probably stocked it. $3.3 million worth of booze for one government department. That seems a little bit excessive. Okay. But yeah, so it makes me wonder if there's some underhanded stuff going on where, yeah, we'll make sure that you guys make a bunch of money off of your booze and then you guys can donate to us. The second thing is that there's a bunch of it that's just listed as bulk alcohol purchases, which I feel like probably doesn't mean that they're buying the 4-liter jugs of vodka.
Gilbo bad week.
Gilbo bad week.
Gilbo bad week.
I tried to
bad week.
put it. I tried to put it phonetically for you, Sean.
I'm no help.
Okay,
this week, folks.
is it GIF or
Mashup
GIF?
129. Let's roll. Anita Anand, the transport minister, says auto theft is down and we're protecting Canadians. Wait a sec. Let's
I
pull
probably
up.
screwed something up. Just go with it.
Let's pull
Yeah,
up
you're right.
national auto theft claims. You know, Two's gonna harass me, but once again, folks, he's just doing his own thing. And what are you gonna do? Here's the data, okay? Auto thefts with a slight dip of 19%. True, okay? But data newly released by Insurance Bureau of Canada reveals auto theft rates in Canada continue to soar well above historic levels. While the country saw a slight dip, 19% in insurance claims for auto theft in the first half of 2024, auto theft claims have risen 138% over the past decade, and further, the value of the auto theft claims has skyrocketed by 442% over that same period. There's the visual.
But they're down 19% from the all-time
But they're down
high.
19%?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
We're doing great. We're doing great.
You gotta have perspective on this stuff. I don't even know. Like this is basically the same kind of thing we were talking about with CBS, where you're not going to get the whole story, and you got to actually look into this stuff a little bit. Okay, and then we had. So here's Stephen Gayballs, With the signing of the Indigenous Stewardship Framework, Parks Canada is moving away from colonial practices. Instead, we embrace Indigenous knowledge and their role as stewards of the land and helping to pave a better path towards future generations. Do you know what the Native Americans used to do back in the day when there hadn't been a forest fire in a while?
Burn it down.
They'd burn it.
Yes.
Colonial practices. He's moving away from, the only colonial practice that they're moving away with First Nations in is having clean drinking water. Okay? That's it. This guy is just such a jackass.
And then
they actually had people slated to testify about fake Indigenous organizations getting billions of dollars worth of government funding, which is a whole fucking can of worms. Like, why do we insist on giving people money based on what their heritage is anyway? But they had somebody slated to testify that was going to open up a whole bunch of shit about liberal chicanery, and they silenced them. So, we really value their voices, but not when they're going to say honest things. Here it is. They amended the meeting so that the person couldn't testify. We got a whole lot of comments coming in. So a company can't write off the alcohol at a Christmas party, but the government can use your tax dollars to buy tons of it. That's a really good point.
Thank you, Michelle. Once again, our listeners are smarter than the two of us.
Yep. They got to drink a lot to believe their own BS. Kelly Lloyd says Gibo. Theft of politician cars. Actually, that's true. Who was it? There was David Lametti, I think it was, got his government car stolen twice, which seems a little bit suspicious. We got Clown World. Two's dressed up for the job he wants, not the one he has, looking sharp. That's correct. I suppose you could say that's fair. And Carol says, agree, Twos. Thanks, Carol.
Of course. Twos is going to read anything that makes him look great. All right. RCMP is a gong show. Jacob's 40 of Glycan. Is that how you say it? Gleason. Of course, I can't pronounce that either today. RCMP. So, sorry. Jacob's 40 of Gleason RCMP is charged with 1 count of perjury and 1 count of breach of trust. He's been suspended with pay, and is scheduled to appear in a court December 12th. He's been an RCMP Mountie for 9 years.
Perjury is probably, I would say, one of the more heinous things that you can commit as an RCMP officer. You're literally going into court and lying and fucking up somebody's life.
Correct.
Like, it's one thing to be a bad cop, you just suck at your job, whatever else. There's plenty of people who suck at their jobs for various reasons. Maybe they're just not strong or fast or competent or can't pronounce things. But then you've got people like this who are literally trying to wreck other people's lives while swearing that they're telling the truth. And that's a cop. And he's getting leave with pay after the year-long investigation.
I don't have anything to add.
And then here's the thing. Here's the thing I'm thinking. Like, this is what I was thinking the whole time I read this, is how much of that happened in Coots. I mean, they went out of their way to not record any of the undercover stuff. They had a bunch of different notes that didn't match up with each other. I feel like it probably wouldn't be too far of a stretch, although I'm never going to be somebody in a position to know that for certain.
Baloney in Belgonia. Whatever. Belgoni. Sorry, Saskatchewan.
Belgonia sounds like a place that has a sausage on their flag. All hail Belgonia.
Maybe that should become a shirt. 2 grade 7 boys who went into the girls' change room in elementary school in Belgoni, Saskatchewan, are the sons of Jared Clark, the NDP MLA for Regina Walsh Acres. Of course, this is huge news with Saskatchewan election right around the corner. And at our own Lloydminster version, with our MLA and then Sask United and the NDP debate, where the NDP person was a teacher, which I found interesting. And he was that isn't happening in schools. And then the next day this comes up and you're like, oh my goodness.
Oh, it turns out it is happening in
It
schools.
is
So the
happening,
superintendent said that basically they're going to side with the, like, tell me this isn't child abuse. Tell me this isn't child abuse. And you got an election coming up. And these are the people who want to say you can trust us with the future of the province. Fuck's sakes. I'm going to go on also as a general rule, people whose name is Jared, but it's spelled weird. I don't know. I never got along well with people whose names are Jared, but it's spelled in a weird way. Same with Jeff. Jeff with a G, pretty much guaranteed we're not going to like each other.
Danielle Smith, this is Tuesday off of the week.
No. Oh, yeah, that is true. Sorry. Yeah, that was the headline. I thought I was going to tweak it slightly, but yes.
I'm interested. Okay, we'll start. You want to start with the Muslim story, correct?
Yeah. So Danielle Smith pisses Tews right off, is what it says.
Danielle Smith pisses Tews right off. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, former campaign manager, has said privately he's mobilizing 2,000 Muslims to come to the United Conservative Party annual general meeting to support Smith as she faces a leadership review. In an audio recording provided to True North, Altheim said he's mobilizing Muslims to gather at the convention. Quoted, I hope you got a lot of busloads of Muslims coming to counter the people that are going to be pretty pissed about this, the source says to Altheim as heard in the recording. Well, yes, I have 2,000 of them. Altheim responds, I'm not too worried. And then it's quoted, you better have a couple thousand of them, the source counters. And he said, quoted as saying, I have 2,000 Muslims. This comes on.
I mean, I don't care that they're Muslims.
I agree.
That doesn't really matter to me. I give a shit about that. The fact is that she's opened up funding towards Muslim schools, which is fair enough. All right. You know what? We got Christian schools. We got Jewish schools. We got whatever kind of school. You want to have a Muslim school? Have at it. No issues there, personally. But because they're so thankful for it, they're going to get all of these kids to hop on a bus, turn it into a field trip, have them come out to Red Deer for the day for free, not paying, and then show up to vote for her and the good job that she's doing. That's greasy as fuck. That's greasier than a short-handled toilet brush, man.
Well, that's politics, isn't it? You know, like this is the world of politics that I do not understand. So what Tews is talking about, it says now here's the thing about the article. I can't confirm this is true. That's what I read, I believe. Tews, correct me if I'm wrong about this email or this note. We don't know if it's true, correct?
Well, I mean, it seems
like there's smoke there, which is going to
it seems like there's a lot more than smoke there.
Sure,
I haven't seen any indication that it's been false, and it's been up.
All I'm saying
days.
is in the True North article, they couldn't corroborate if it was in fact written true. This part of it, the audio recording's one thing. The next thing is we have a great opportunity. This is what the note says. We have a great opportunity for all students who are 14 years old or older. Premier Smith has invited her students and community to join her conference in Red Deer November 2nd. We'll be traveling together on EIA buses, and there's absolutely no cost to anyone who wishes to participate. In fact, transportation, all meals, and convention tickets are all covered. You can also bring unlimited friends and family along to the event. Our hope is that we show up in large numbers and demonstrate our gratitude for the support she's given our community, such as protecting parents' rights to education choice, construction funds for a new school project, halal financing, and other important initiatives. So
now, I do take umbrage with the halal financing. I'll say that. Not because I care about the halal part of it, but the government shouldn't be involved with mortgages. And I talked about this before. Halal is basically we're just going to cover off every part where it says interest in a mortgage. We're going to cross that out and write the word fee, which is a stupid fine point to try and make with your God when you meet him. And I think that's absolutely silly. Like I need the 72 virgins, and in an effort to do so, I crossed out everywhere in my mortgage where it said interest and I wrote in the word fee.
So forgive me. Maybe I'm wrong on this too. Okay. The way I read this note is it says, "Dear Edmonton Islamic Academy families." So this is coming from Islamic Academy families. They're putting things together to go support Daniel Smith, right?
Yes.
Now, on the flip side, if you're 1905 committee, your TBA, you're all these other ones, you're doing the exact same thing. Are you not? So we're going to point out, and we're going to use the word Muslim. We're going to say that this is what's going on. Meanwhile, others are doing the same bloody thing. Or am I completely off base here?
This is the exact same thing with the exact opposite intended result. They want to go there.
They want to go there
show
and
their support.
Support.
Okay. And I, for one, and I feel like a lot of other people want to go there and say, "What the fuck, Danielle? Maybe you could start doing some conservative stuff."
Sure, but you don't have the monopoly on who gets to go there or how they do it. This is like, you can either like or hate this, but they're just organizing. 1905 committee organizing, TBA organizing, and they would argue that, you know, in TBA or others, because when Tucker Carlson came, for the kids' sake, organized a bus, and we took a whole bunch of us down there. That's what's happening here, isn't it? People just don't like that it's in, like, am I wrong? But folks, like, feel free to comment. Maybe I'm completely off base here.
It seems as though the way I read it is that Danielle Smith, and therefore the UCP, is waiving their $400 entry fees and giving them a meet and greet with the premier to sweeten the pot so that they make the trip.
Well, maybe I missed part of it.
Now, it was a little bit ambiguously worded, but that's what
says,
it looks like to me.
in fact, transportation, all meals, and convention tickets are all covered. To me, when I read it, you know, certainly Premier Smith has invited our students and community to join her conference in Red Deer, you know,
and everything's covered.
It doesn't say everything's covered. Like, it says that everything's covered from the standpoint of
nothing out of
the
pocket
Edmonton
for the kids.
Islamic Academy families. So I take it that the academy is going to cover it all. Like, I listen.
Right. Okay.
I never thought I'd be playing this side of it.
Do we have a special meet and greet for everybody who's a Mashup fan who's going to come check us out at the AGM with Danielle Smith?
But it would be, if we could pull it off, we would.
Do we?
But we don't. But I understand.
No, but they do.
We could probably get Shane Getson in the Mashup. Have a meet and greet.
I'm sure, absolutely, right?
Could we go offline and form our own Mashup? Hey, we're all gonna meet. We're all going.
Shane Getson is not under a leadership review right now, and he's not doing meet and greets with people who are sending busloads of people at zero expense to come vote for him. Okay, we got to move this forward. Give me a buzz.
I'm curious what people are going to chime in. Share and buy a T-shirt, folks.
Yep.
You wait a sec. I wanted to bring up one other thing. Okay, there's two other things about Smith. I know you want to move things along. One, $7 million ad campaign against Trudeau's upcoming cap on oil and gas emissions. Scrap the cap is the ad campaign.
That's a highly original version of Axe the Tax. And after the way the war room went, do you think spending $7 million more doing this exact same thing is going to be successful or even a good idea? What the hell are wrong with, like, come up with something better?
What is up with us? But here's the problem, Twos. I get mad at the Conservatives for not spending money on getting out of the pension plan, right? We're like, where did that go? Why aren't they spending money on it? Now she's trying to head off something that's coming down the pipe from Guilbeault and Trudeau, and we're mad because they're spending money on it. I'm like, well, we can't. What are we just getting mad at everything? And quietly, I might add, I feel like it's quietly, maybe I'm wrong, we forgot to add in, or maybe it happened in between, Jennifer Johnson is back in the UCP. Now, that happened very quietly.
Oh,
I think.
I didn't know about that.
We're going to sit here and ram on Smith and ram, but we're not going to talk about some of the things that she's quietly doing. I think it was quiet because they didn't want to create waves. But look, Jennifer Johnson, back in. We talked about that. We were upset about that. I was upset about that. Back in. They're spending money on trying to head off the federal government from ramming it down our throats about our industries. Do we not want them to spend money on that?
Not an ad campaign. Come up with something better. Come up with
Sure.
something.
I can
We just
agree
did the war room. We did a $35 million war room, and the best thing they had was they were bitching about a Netflix show, and we're going to throw $7 million more at the problem. Do better. Do better. I'm not saying don't spend money on it. And we would have talked about this if you hadn't gone on being wrong for so fucking long. Smith fears Trudeau could get more dangerous before he's punted. This is what I've been saying for months, is that when he's on his way out anyway, he's just gonna raise the crops behind him as he does the staggered retreat from the capital.
I'm just
He's
pointing
gonna
out.
he's gonna absolutely wreck everything, and I think
I'm
he's
just-
totally on point with this.
I'm
Totally
just
on
pointing
point.
out we want to point out the negative all the time. And at times, 100% you are fair. At other times, we have to give a little bit of credit. Jennifer Johnson's back a part of it. They're spending money.
I didn't
now,
know that.
Could they spend their money better? Me and you both can agree on that. But they are trying to protect our industry, our way of life. Is an ad campaign the right way? Probably not. They should probably take some notes from the Mashup and the blue collar folk around this province who know how to do it better and could probably spend the money wiser. Is $7 million the number? Maybe it could be lower. Yes. But I'm still not going to harass them on that when there's other things to harass them on.
This is about the maddest I've ever been at you right now,
Good.
Sean.
Good.
Okay, you're telling me
Good.
that I am
Greg.
being unfairly describing Danielle Smith in all this. I have been going out of my way, especially leading up to the AGM, to be as fair and giving her credit where it's due when it's deserved. And you're like, oh, yeah, all you want to do is just talk about how bad she is. You are an asshole.
Climate change. What are we doing here? Subscription?
Oh, yeah, sorry. We haven't even got to this yet because you're still on the last thing. Climate change update.
Climate change update. The future depends on how humanity reacts to global warming, and it also depends on how the Earth does. New science suggests that climate is all on its own, unstable, prone to dramatic and sometimes sudden shifts. That's from the New Yorker, folks.
Now, this flies in the face of everything that you've been told for the last 15 years about the climate science being settled. I just wanted to note that everybody from Obama to Trudeau to Elizabeth May to David Suzuki, anytime you question anything or say like, well, this doesn't make sense, the science is settled, the science is settled, the science is settled, and then here we go. New science suggests. That's it.
Climate
I just
change
wanted
stuff.
to point out that
I know.
that
Subscription happy news. This is U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren. No more searching
remember the
for
one who pretended to be Native American? This is her.
No more searching for how to cancel your subscriptions. Today, the FTC finalized a click to cancel rule to make it as easy to cancel a subscription as it is to sign up for one. I think we've all dealt with. Where the heck do I go to get rid of this?
Like, do I have to just cut up my credit card for this to not happen anymore? All right. And so Elizabeth Warren, of all people, you want to talk about fair and unbalanced coverage? I'm praising something that Elizabeth Warren put forward here, Sean.
Victoria shows her secret. It's a dick.
So, yeah, we're not going to show you any clips. We're not going to show you any pictures. But Victoria's Secret finally brought back the runway models. And they had two trans dudes and one very large woman. So, yeah, everything that I've been saying about having balls hanging halfway out of your lady's underwear, Victoria just did a runway about it. And this is after one of our early mashups. We talked about how Victoria's Secret, their sales tanked when they went with the whole body positivity thing and had a bunch of arguably unattractive women on billboards and everything else like that with their underwear. And then nobody wanted to buy it anymore. And they said, okay, well, we're going to get away from that. We're going to go back to hot chicks. I mean, this is how you sell beer. This is how you sell everything, is hot chicks. And then they said, just kidding. Here's a dude with a pecker.
They can't be that dumb. And then they do it. You're like,
And then they are.
Heist of the week. I want to show this video, okay? I'll talk to it while it's playing. You don't even need any sound on. You can just see this guy Yeah. Anyways, you can see him as he goes. This is Awil Hassan Abdi was on probation for LCBO theft when he allegedly stole more than 250 G in booze from LCBO stores. Peel Regional Police say Awil Hassan Abdi, who had been sought since investigators identified him as a suspect in as many as 90 liquor store thefts in 2 weeks ago. Like this is like they're just walking straight out with suitcases full of booze.
Yeah, this is basically what the government does. This is I don't know why it's fine for the government to do it, but this guy isn't allowed to. Maybe he works for them. Have they considered that? They'd be like, oh yeah, we want to arrest this guy. Oh no, he was getting that for Justin. Oh, okay, that's fine. But yeah, this is pretty lowbrow as far as heist goes. He just walks in with a suitcase, fills it up, and walks out. Because they passed this policy at the LCBOs that they were going to confront thefts. And then this guy said, well then. I wonder how far I could push this.
He's pushed it pretty far.
Yeah, he stole $250,000 worth of booze.
Catch and release. All right. A female tourist was repeatedly punched and kicked in the face near the cruise ship terminal at Canada Place on Sunday morning. Vancouver Police Department spokesman Sergeant Steve Addison said the attacks was reported at 9 a.m. on October 13th. He said the 35-year-old visitor to Vancouver was walking near the cruise ship terminal when she was assaulted by a stranger. Massimo Rosario Falvo, 40, has been charged with assault and remains in custody. According to court records, Falvo assaulted a person in Vancouver on November 3rd, 2023, and has appeared in court 15 times since then, not including his most recent charge.
Yeah. So we just finished a story about a guy who gets out on bail and then steals $250,000 worth of booze. You got this guy who is a repeat offender ad infinitum, who's just beating the crap out of a random tourist. Okay. This didn't make the news, but Crossfield, little town just north of Airdrie, they had this issue where this guy who, this is pretty serious, this guy who was a teacher's aide of some kind, worked with nonverbal kids at the school. The RCMP did an investigation for 6 months, arrested him for being a pedophile. He goes to jail. He gets the shit beat out of him. Facial reconstructive surgery. He gets beat up so bad. And then he gets released on bail a little while later. He gets back to his house in this small town. 2 hours later, some random vehicle drives by and shoots it up. Doesn't kill him or anything like that as far as I know. But, yeah, this is what happens when you just let people out on bail and they're the worst people. Like, it's one thing when it's some guy stealing $250,000 worth of booze and he's out on bail. And then you got people beating up tourists out on bail. You let a pedophile out on bail in the town where he was working at the school with nonverbal children as a child molester. Somebody shoots his house. This is the country they're making, where the only justice is vigilante justice.
Kamala.
I was in a rush. Funny. I had like 10 seconds left.
Well, I think everybody saw her do the Bear interview on Fox. One of the things that here, I'll read a quote. You can show a couple of the videos if you want to. More than 70% of people say the country is on the wrong track. If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years. This is what Brett Bear said to her. Kamala responded, and Donald Trump has been running for office since. Bear responded, but you've been the person holding office.
Frankly, exhausted of that.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
you
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about.
We both know what we're talking about.
I actually don't know what you're talking about.
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
people
people have
lever of
become,
power.
but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, frankly, exhausted of Brett.
More than 70.
Yeah. Everybody hates the direction this country's in. Yes, and Donald Trump's been running for president, but you're actually in charge. And so this thing was a disaster. So there's a couple other there's probably a half dozen clips.
Oh,
just
there's
as
so
bad
many.
as this. Okay. But Brett Byers said that basically the people behind the scenes for her were just being like, cut it, end this interview, cut it short. And so he had to make like a fast exit. And then he also said, I got the same clip twice. Country. The one that I wanted. He also said that they showed up late and then didn't get going till much later. And then so the window got shorter and shorter and shorter for the interview. And there's Polymarket. So we talked about this last week. We'll see how accurate it ends up being.
We'll see how accurate. You know what's interesting about this number right here, Twos?
It's more than 60-40.
But when I had Martin Armstrong on, I don't know, folks, maybe in the last month, he had brought it up with Socrates, what the computer was saying, his computer, and he said it shows a landslide. And I'm like, okay, well, what's a landslide? And he said, it's only happened, I think, if memory serves me correct, only 2 other times in history where you've had a 60-40 split, and his computer shows Trump having these numbers. That's what I found interesting about where this Polymarket sits, is exactly where Martin Armstrong's computer a month ago said it's projecting, is that it's going to be a 60-40 landslide victory for Trump. Who knows? Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we will see, and it'll be interesting to see for sure. It's funny because, a landslide, this American politics is a lot like soccer. And I'm sure there's somebody from Tennessee who's like, what the fuck did you just say? But, anything more than a small difference is a blowout, right? Like 3-0 in a soccer game is a blowout. And that's why it was so funny last week when we talked about that 19-0 loss of the all-trans male team, right? And so 52% or 53% is a blowout.
Well,
and he's looking at having over 60.
60. We'll wait and see. This might be the most concerning thing of the week. Honestly, this thought crime illegal. A British man literally convicted of thought crime after praying silently. British courts have found Adam guilty for praying to God silently in his mind for 3 minutes in an abortion buffer zone. This is the first known conviction of thought crime in modern British history. So that's
was anybody convicted of thought crime in
I wondered that too. Yes.
Like it's an odd qualifier to put in there.
Yes. But regardless, standing there praying silently, he's been convicted of that. I mean, that should concern anyone with a religious background.
Yeah, although I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, if he was praying to a God a few hundred years older or younger than that, maybe about 500-600 years younger, ballpark, he probably wouldn't have been met with the same brutality.
brutality.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kelly says, agree 222. Not sure where that came up, but thank you very much.
I was expecting, honestly, before I read the next headline, I was expecting people to come at me over our conversation on Danielle or all the other things. Tooz is upset with me today.
Oh, it got real quiet. It's like,
it got real quiet.
The chat just all of a sudden died. There's a little bit going on, and it's probably a little bit too long to read, which is too bad. But maybe we could lay it out a little bit clearer next week is what I'm thinking.
Maybe.
But the chat just got real quiet.
Anyways, Calgary roads, take me home. A report issuing a dire warning about the state of Calgary roads. The report presented to City Council's Infrastructure and Planning Committee on Wednesday says much of the city's road network is in need of some major repairs and a massive boost in funding for maintenance. A recent assessment shows that 38% of the city's road network is in good condition, 36% is in fair condition, 26% is in poor condition, and 3.2% of the road network is considered below the acceptable threshold.
So when you look at this is everybody in Calgary, when you're complaining that all the businesses are leaving because the property taxes are too high and the people can hardly make ends meet because the property taxes are so high for them. And you look at this chart and it says that Edmonton spends $17,500 per kilometer on road in average. Toronto's 13, Montreal's 12,500. The mafia construction free money from the rest of Canada, capital of the world, is spending 12,500. And Vancouver's 2,500 and Calgary's 2,000. So they've specifically talked in this article about how there's a lot more freeze thaw in Calgary than there is in other places, and that creates more heaving. You would expect them to be on the other end of the list. You'd expect them to be a lot higher. Now, the question that comes to my mind when I look at this is, where the fuck does all the money go? The other thing is that they're now going to fine Calgarians who shovel their snow onto the street instead of shoveling it onto their
lawn,
which is interesting because there aren't a whole lot of lawns in any new houses. I don't know if you've been in any of the areas where people are building new houses. I saw this one lawn a few months ago where literally it was too narrow. You wouldn't have been able to run a lawnmower down that strip. They had about 16 inches, maybe like 14 inches of lawn in their front. Their sidewalk was wider than their lawn. How are you gonna shovel onto that? You got to push it out onto the street. But you dumb bureaucrats making stupid rules.
Happy news. Happy news. All right. Here is I gotta scroll up to the top. Sorry, folks. I gotta remember. This is son's hilarious obituary for dad goes viral. He is God's problem now. There he is, his son and his father. He just writes a funny obituary too. If there's a part you want to read out of it, by all means.
Oh, absolutely. It sucks because it's New York Post, and so there's all kinds of weird advertisements in the middle of it. Like, I'm a doctor, you shouldn't drink diet soda for these 4 alarming reasons, and shit like that. But if I could go through here, Robert Adolph Beam, in accordance with his lifelong dedication to his own personal brand of decorum, muttered his last unintelligible and likely unnecessary curse on October 6, 2024, shortly before tripping backward over some stupid bleeping thing and hitting his head on the floor. Was how it began. And then it says, God immediately and thankfully broke the mold and attempted to cover up the evidence when he's talking about his birth. He said, raised Catholic, Robert managed to get his wife Diane pregnant 3 times, fast enough to just barely miss getting drafted into the Vietnam War by fathering Michelle, John, and Charlotte between 67 and 72. Much later, with Robert possibly concerned about the brewing conflict in Grenada, Charles was born in 83. Right?
It went on to say, Charles also recalled that his father, who worked as a semi-professional truck driver, not to be confused with a professional semi-truck driver, had a pension for collecting antique weaponry as well as harmonicas. The latter caused his beloved dogs to howl continuously at odd hours of the night to entertain his neighbors and occasionally to give to his many, many, many grandchildren and great-grandchildren to play loudly during long road trips with their parents. And so it went on and on and on.
In addition, his late-life hobby of shooting guns led him to blow not 1, but 2 holes in the dash of his own car on 2 separate occasions.
Pretty unique eulogy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one here is Ron DeSantis was talking about all the linemen he has lined up, and I'll let him say this.
And I was like thinking it was such a big deal that we brought him as far away from California. Turns out I was over in Hardy County, ran into a bunch of linemen from Alberta in Canada. Can you imagine that? We're bringing them in from Canada even. So those guys they were really big, strong guys doing a lot of great work. They weren't happy that Florida has the Stanley Cup and they don't, but they're out there working really hard. So from even Canada.
So, yeah, Ron DeSantis giving a shout out to Alberta linemen who are down in Florida, getting their grid back up. So if you're down there and you're listening to this, good job, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let's what do we got here? We got oh, I didn't realize Murray
The-
Henderson. I didn't realize Michelle is Krieger's running for the Buffalo Party of Saskatchewan.
We
Hey.
literally talked about this last week.
No. She talked. Did we talk about her running? We talked about her.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Well, Michelle, my apologies.
Or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. But yeah.
You know, I got to deal with this Yahoo on the other side. I did not realize that, Murray. So Sask election, October 28th. Yes, we got some community notes. BC election tomorrow night. Let's start there, can we? That is the big news of the day. BC election tomorrow night, live election coverage brought to you by Six Rock Dairy. If you want to get your community, he's got community notes popping up. If you want to get your company on that tomorrow, shoot me a text. We'd love to have a few more businesses support what we're doing with the live election coverage that doesn't suck. That's BC tomorrow. And it is starting 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for all you out in BC, British Columbia. That would be 6 p.m. your time. And we're going to be on Rumble, YouTube, X, Facebook. Once again, we're going to have Carson Binda from Canadian Taxpayers Federation. We're going to have Clyde Do Something, Chase Barber from Edison Motors, Alex Zoltan, Wyatt Claypool, Anita Krishna, more, I'm sure, because I haven't checked my phone this morning, and I was waiting on a few others to make sure they could make it. October 28th, we have the Saskatchewan live election coverage coming. That's brought to you in part by AMC Electrical. And if you're a company in Saskatchewan that wants to get on that, once again, get on it right now. Shoot me a text. It's good. That's going to be a lot of fun. Saskatchewan as well. Obviously, Drew from AMC Electrical roots in Saskatchewan. Two's roots in Saskatchewan. This guy roots in Saskatchewan. So that's going to be a fun election to do. We have Friday, November 1st. We're going to be at the UCP AGM in Red Deer. We have a hospitality room. And the hospitality room, folks, has got a cash bar. We're going to be having some food up there. We're going to be having some fun. We want to meet you all. We want you all to come enjoy us. On Saturday, we're going to be doing some roundtables on the UCP AGM. We're going to be having some fun there, and we hope to see you there. Finally, November 5th, we're going to do a U.S. election live stream as well. And so there's going to be tons of content coming from the Mashup here in the next 2-3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And we hope that we see all of you tomorrow night to start with it on the BC live election coverage. We do have a map that's going to be like Alberta that's going to be updating. And
we're
once again
continuing to be the only people other than mainstream media in Canada
who
have ever had the map. We got the map.
It's going to be live updates. We don't need to go anywhere. We're just going to be populating and see what's going on, and we're going to be having some fun. So that's tomorrow night. Twos, anything else from the community side of
Grandmaster Flavio Bearing seminar, November 10th in Edmonton. I have no idea what that is. I don't know.
BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay. All right. I was going to say that sounds like Grandmaster Flash, but that's somebody else entirely. Okay, so there you go. November 10th in Edmonton. The Lumsden fundraiser. I didn't write it down from last week. I got to bug Henry for the details on that. I got to give him a call anyway. But Lumsden's having, I think in mid-November, they've got a fundraiser for the fire department.
And next week, folks, Twos will not be joining me. So we're going to have a surprise guest appearance.
I don't even know who it's going to be.
And we're going to see if they can fill the shoes of Twos. I'm sure they can comb their hair and put on a button shirt. So that'd be, already they're pretty much a step ahead of them.
This will be the first time I've had a week off from the Mashup since we started.
That's right. So next week, no Twos. You're stuck with me and a guest. So that should be interesting. You got Michelle chiming in. United Way Telethon today in Estevan, Saskatchewan. So
Estevan?
I know. Shush. All right? Shush.
Sounds like a gay fashion designer.
Thanks for hopping in, folks, today. That'll do it for us here, Mashup 129. Until next week, Twos, I guess in 2 weeks for Twos, but certainly for the rest of you, we'll see you next week.
I'll be tuning in.
Till then.
All right.